Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. I hope that you all had a great weekend and ready for the new week. We are going to have a busy week. You are going actually to take your very first exam in this class, which will be online. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the test. But let me just tell you what's going on this week. So we're going to study chapter 4, which is about the market failure. Of course, I sent you an email. You have all the materials online on D2L. So make sure that you watch the videos that I posted in week 4. Look at the lecture notes, okay? This chapter is kind of connected to chapter 3. Last week we talked about demand and supply. We talked about market equilibrium, how we shift demand, how we shift supply, how we are able actually to find our new equilibrium price, new equilibrium quantity, okay? So everything was basically very smooth and kind of easy in chapter 3, and we always had that equilibrium that we were looking for. But you will see in this chapter, chapter 4, that not all the time actually is possible for the market to produce that optimal amount of output or the equilibrium quantity we had in chapter 3. And it's because market is not really that powerful, and it's possible for the market to make mistakes. And we call it market failure. So whenever the market doesn't produce the optimal quantity, that Q star or that equilibrium quantity we had in chapter 3, we say that we have market failure. So the reason behind market failure, in short, could be because of demand. Demand is not doing its job, or it could be because of the supply. Supply is not doing its job. If you don't remember what is the job of demand or what does the supply do, definitely go back to chapter 3 and see how we define demand and supply. At this point, you should be comfortable with the concept of demand, quantity demanded, supply, quantity supplied. If you have any question, please just let me know, okay? I probably mentioned it also last week in my video that we're going to need actually demand and supply also in future chapters, okay? So this demand and supply or demand and supply market failure are sources of market failure, okay, in general. The rest of the chapter is about examples of market failure. There are so many different examples for market failure, but we're going to stick to the examples in the textbook, which are public goods and externalities. So make sure you also, for the public good, you also review the characteristics of private good and quasi-public good, okay? There'll be question about the characteristics of all these 3: private, public, and quasi-public, okay? If you look at the notes, I put everything there. We also have positive externalities and negative externalities, and another example of market failure. So for that part, I want you to know the definitions of positive externality and negative externalities. Look at the graph. I'm not going to go into details of the graph, but just know, for instance, for the positive externality, the problem we have is with the demand side of the market. So we have a demand side market failure when it comes to positive externality, and negative externality absolutely is exactly the opposite of what I'm telling you. So demand side market failure is going to cause the positive externality, because positive externality is the additional benefit that one person is passing to other people in the society. So you get your vaccine, you get your flu shots, so you are protecting yourself from getting flu. At the same time, the chances that somebody else gets the flu virus from you is close to 0. So that's the positive externality coming from your flu shot to other people around you. That's the positive externality, okay? We have a problem with demand side of the market here, because the demand doesn't show how much people are willing to pay for these positive externality that is receiving from you, okay? So we have a problem with the demand side of the market. So we are sending basically a wrong signal to the market, okay? That's why that we have this market failure. That's why the market is not able to produce the optimal amount of output, okay? So know how we define these positive externalities, negative externalities. Know that positive externalities is an example of demand side market failure. Know that positive externality creates underproduction in the market because we have a problem with the demand. So the location of our demand actually is wrong when it comes to positive externality. So pay attention to the graph, look at the location of the demand, and we can fix the problem by asking the government actually to get involved for both externalities and public goods. And most of the time when we have problem with the market and we have market failure, the best solution to resolve them is having an active government. So same thing here for positive externalities. So if we have positive externalities, the solution actually for us is for the government to get involved, and the government actually can change the supply side of the market. The government can produce and help us actually to produce more, let's say, vaccine, more flu shots in the market. Education is another good example for positive externality. The government can make education more affordable for everybody. So we need subsidies coming from the government. So the subsidies basically are solutions for positive externalities. Negative externalities is exactly the opposite. The government should impose higher taxes, okay, when it comes to negative externalities, okay? I try to keep the video short because the last week, I think my video was over 15 minutes, so I'm trying to keep it short. So if you look at my notes, you'll be able to find negative externalities, exactly the opposite of positive externalities, okay? So no public goods. What we mean by public goods, more importantly, why we're saying public good is an example of market failure, okay? So let me mention this quickly. I really hate just leaving it here. So, so the problem actually we have with public good is coming from one of the characteristics of public goods. So if you look at the notes, you'll see that public goods are non-rival and non-excludable. It means they're non-rival, meaning that my consumption will not impact your consumption. Like highways, many of us can drive in the very same highway, no problem. So highway is a public good. We can all use the Harris County Library on campus at the same time, no problem, because it's non-rival, it's public. Public goods are also non-excludable, another characteristic of public good. What does it mean? It means that nobody can exclude you from using them. So public goods are exactly the opposite of private good. If you look at the definition of private good in the lecture notes, you'll see that we're saying that private goods are rival excludable, okay? But public goods are non-excludable. So nobody can exclude you from using public goods. We're not saying that public goods are free because we are paying our taxes, right? And that's how the public goods actually are financed, and the government is able actually to produce them through our taxes. So they're not exactly free, but at the same time, they are non-excludable. It means that even if you don't pay your taxes, you can still drive in the same highway. You can still go to the Harris County Library. You can walk in the park because they're all public goods and they are all non-excludable, okay? So we have a problem with that. When a good is non-excludable, many consumers can take the advantage of this non-excludability and use it for free because we're all free riders. So public good create actually these free riders, okay? So when you look at the demand for public goods, since we have many free riders in the economy, we are not actually able to get a sense of the demand in the market, okay? The demand doesn't show how much people actually are willing to pay for public goods because public goods are non-excludable. So nobody will ask and check your taxes when you use public goods, and that causes a problem. Okay, so if we do not solve the problem we have with public good, which is this non-excludability part, the demand for public good will vanish eventually because we will have many free riders in the market, okay? But of course, the government is in charge of producing public goods because of this non-excludability part. The private good actually is not really that interested in producing public goods because of the demand side market failure that comes with public good. So the government actually has all the finances. The government can collect taxes from us, can produce public goods, can definitely has IRS, so it can follow up and see who's not paying their taxes and everything. So the government can actually deal with this free rider problem, okay? So for public good, I didn't want to spend much time on public good, but I did anyways. So for public good, know the characteristics of public goods, private good, quasi-public, why we're saying public good is an example of market failure, and definitely know about this free rider problem that I just explained. And also another example for market failure will be externalities. So study negative externalities, positive externalities. Another a thing that I want you to pay attention in this chapter is about consumer surplus, producer surplus. Know how we calculate consumer surplus, producer surplus numerically and also from the graph. Okay, so pay attention to the graph. You can also find, let's say, consumer surplus from the graph. Look at the equilibrium we had in chapter 3. So the location below the demand, our demand was downward slope, right? So the location below the demand, and if this is my equilibrium, this is the intersection of my supply, this is my demand, so this is my this is basically my market equilibrium. I'm talking about right here. This is my market equilibrium. So this is my price. If this is my x-axis. So the location below the demand and above this equilibrium price will be my consumer surplus. And producer surplus is right below that. It's below the equilibrium price and above the supply. So pay attention to that. And remember that anytime that we have market failure, the consumer surplus and producer surplus will go down. Okay, so the market makes mistake when we have market failure. Sometimes the market produces too much output, we call it overproduction. Sometimes the market makes mistake and produces too little, we call it underproduction. So also pay attention to overproduction and underproduction, what we mean by them. All right, so that's pretty much about chapter 4. So you need to complete the assignments for this chapter. Again, I put everything in my weekly email. So the deadline, again, as usual, is on Monday. I want to talk a little bit about the test because you have a test, our exam number 1, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So the test will be open up to you guys on 17th, and you have a few days to take it. So the test will be closed at 11:30 p.m. on September 21st. Okay, the test will be over chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So definitely check week 4 on D12. I put review for your review sheet with like important topics of each chapter for you, and also practice question. So there will be different questions with their answers. Make sure you take a look at them. Definitely review my notes. Ask me if you have any question. Watch the videos if you didn't understand a topic. Review the assignments on D12, and you should be good. One thing that you need to know is that you can take the test any day that you want. So the test will be open on 17th and it will be closed on 21st. So take it any day that you are comfortable, you have time, and you are ready, okay? But remember, as soon as you open up the test, your clock is ticking. So the exam will be closed at certain time, okay? So pay attention to your time. Also, I sent a video last week about the new features we have in Connect. Even those of you, I know that some of you took macro with me over summer or in the spring because I know your names. So it is different, okay? We have a new edition of the textbook. So this proctoring thing did not exist in the previous edition of Connect. So this is completely new. So watch that video that I sent you. Again, I included it in my weekly video for this week. So make sure you watch it. You need to have a webcam. If you don't have a webcam, please contact me before 17th and let me know. There will be also a lockdown browser. So as soon as you open the test, your screen will freeze. You are not able to search on the internet. You cannot use the calculator on your laptop. So make sure you have a calculator. However, I believe that you really don't need a calculator for this test, but you definitely need a calculator for future exams, okay? But not really for this one, except for opportunity cost. I mean, it's really easy to calculate opportunity cost, but if you feel like that you need it, definitely keep it handy. So you cannot search anything. So there will be a lockdown browser for you. So you need a webcam, and the lockdown browser is going to happen automatically. This is the very first time that I'm using proctoring on Connect. So hopefully everything will work out. I tried, it worked. So hopefully you won't have any problem with it. But if you do, definitely contact me, send me an email right away. Do not send anything to my D12. I'm pretty active at responding to your D2L emails during the day, but if it's afternoon or evening or weekend you're taking the test, definitely send me your questions to my Lone Star, because my Lone Star email, I put it again on my in my email. However, you can find it on the syllabus, and you should be able to find it on the syllabus. So just let me know if you have any question right away, and I'll get back to you. But I'm hoping for the best. So good luck on the test. Let me know if you have any question, and I'll see you next week. Take care.